The world stage is currently witnessing a multitude of significant events, from geopolitical shifts to economic fluctuations. Amidst this global turbulence, it is crucial to examine the internal vulnerabilities within major economies like the United States. Have you seen the headlines? The economy is in trouble, and some states are feeling it more than others. But were you aware that if a recession hits hard enough, certain states could potentially collapse first? What truly transpires when cities fall silent, jobs vanish, and residents are compelled to flee their homes? We delve into these pressing questions today, exploring the factors that make some American states particularly susceptible to economic downturns. We will analyze historical data, current economic indicators, and official reports to understand the underlying weaknesses. Stick around, as we will provide a summary and conclusions at the very end of this analysis. The economic landscape is fraught with uncertainty, and the whispers of a potential recession are growing louder. While the entire nation would feel the impact, certain states are precariously positioned, hanging by a thread, potentially ready to crumble under the weight of economic failure. Have you ever wondered which states are most at risk? From locations struggling to stay afloat due to mounting debt and high costs of living, to areas where vital industries could vanish seemingly overnight, these states confront challenges that might push them into total decline. The factors contributing to this vulnerability are complex, involving everything from reliance on volatile industries and crippling pension liabilities to population decline and inadequate infrastructure. Understanding these weaknesses is not merely an academic exercise. It's crucial for grasping the potential real-world consequences for millions of Americans. Our channel aims to shed light on these critical issues. If you find this information valuable, please consider subscribing and hitting the like button. It truly helps us continue bringing you this content. Also, let us know in the comments where you are watching from. We love hearing from our audience around the globe. Before we proceed, a brief disclaimer is in order. Please understand that video thumbnails are crafted to attract attention and may not always precisely mirror the actual content. They serve as creative representations designed to engage viewers. We appreciate your understanding and hope you find the video informative. While we strive diligently to provide accurate and valuable information, this video is intended solely for reference and educational purposes. The content presented reflects a compilation of viewpoints and insights, selectively gathered from various articles, social media posts, public forums, news sites, and online discussions. We do not claim absolute accuracy, nor is this video intended as an official or authoritative source. Viewers are strongly encouraged to conduct their own research, compare information from multiple trusted sources, and approach all online content, including this one, with a critical and discerning mindset. This video does not intend to target or discredit any individual, organization, or nation. Its purpose is not to determine what is definitively right or wrong, but rather to encourage thoughtful reflection and highlight lessons we can learn from current events. Please watch with an open mind, reflect thoughtfully, and thank you for being part of this journey with us. Now let's delve into the specifics. California, often hailed as the Golden State, presents a surprising paradox. You might be shocked to hear that the world's fifth-largest economy is teetering on the edge. Once a beacon of opportunity and prosperity, California is now grappling with an economic crisis that could make it collapse if a major recession hits. The state's sky-high cost of living is a primary concern, making it increasingly difficult for average families to afford basic necessities. Housing prices in particular have reached astronomical levels, pushing many residents to seek more affordable options elsewhere. Coupled with this are the staggering homelessness rates plaguing major cities, a visible symptom of deeper economic distress and inadequate social support systems. Furthermore, the state's heavy over-reliance on the tech and entertainment industries creates significant vulnerability. While these sectors have driven growth, they are notoriously volatile. Tech layoffs, like those recently witnessed, and the potential cyclical downturns in entertainment can send shockwaves through the state's economy. The much-discussed fall of Silicon Valley Bank serves as a stark reminder of the fragility inherent in such concentrated economic models. Did you know that California's state budget deficit has ballooned to an estimated $73 billion? This massive shortfall signals serious fiscal challenges, The exodus of wealthy individuals and businesses seeking lower tax states further erodes the tax base, leaving those who remain, particularly the shrinking middle class, to bear a heavier burden. These issues are not just theoretical. They are happening right now, dragging the state down. While California boasts a diverse economy in many respects, can it truly withstand the weight of a major recession given these mounting pressures? The escalating poverty and the clear signs of economic strain suggest a precarious future. Only time will tell if the Golden State can navigate these turbulent waters, or if it will be among the first to succumb to a national economic downturn. Please remember to watch through to the end, where we will summarize our findings and offer concluding thoughts on this complex situation. Next, let's consider Illinois. Ever wonder how dire a state's finances can become before it truly crumbles? Illinois serves as a sobering case study, living proof of fiscal mismanagement spiraling towards potential collapse. You might be genuinely shocked to learn that Illinois suffers from one of the most severe pension crises in the entire country. Decades of underfunding have led to unfunded liabilities reaching over $140 billion. Imagine the weight of such a debt obligation hanging over the state's finances. That is an enormous amount of debt, right? But the financial woes do not stop there. Property taxes in Illinois are soaring, placing an immense burden on homeowners and businesses alike. These high taxes contribute to an environment where residents feel increasingly squeezed, and consequently, more people are leaving the state each year than are moving in. This continuous population decline further shrinks the tax base, exacerbating the state's fiscal challenges in a vicious cycle. Guess what? Chicago, the state's primary economic engine, is far from immune. The Windy City itself is struggling with a significant budget deficit, estimated recently at around $1 billion. This reflects the broader financial instability gripping the state. Adding to the grim picture is Illinois' bond rating, which languishes as one of the lowest in the nation. This poor rating makes it more expensive for the state to borrow money, further restricting its ability to invest in essential services or address its mounting debt. Now, introduce the possibility of a recession into this already volatile mix. A downturn could quickly cause Illinois to spiral into an even deeper crisis, especially if businesses continue to flee or scale back their operations due to the unfavorable economic climate. The combination of massive pension debt, high taxes, population loss, and a struggling major city paints a picture of a state teetering on the edge. Without significant structural reforms and an improvement in its fiscal health, Illinois could indeed be one of the first states to collapse under the pressure of a national recession. If you are finding these analyses of state vulnerabilities fascinating and alarming, make sure to subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you will get more insights into states facing potential disaster and stay informed on critical economic trends. Let us turn our attention to New York, America's undisputed financial powerhouse. Home to Wall Street and a global center for commerce, it sounds like it has it all, a state seemingly invincible to economic downturns. But did you know that even the Empire State harbors weaknesses that a recession could ruthlessly expose? You might think that New York, the state that never sleeps, is immune to financial collapse, but you would be shocked to learn just how much trouble it is actually facing beneath the surface. From the inherently volatile nature of Wall Street, where fortunes can be made or lost overnight, to the skyrocketing living costs, particularly in cities like New York City, the state is incredibly vulnerable. Finance, real estate, and tourism form the backbone of New York's economy, but these are precisely the industries that take a hard hit during recessions. Consider Wall Street, arguably the heart of the financial world. When the market crashes, New York feels the tremors first and most acutely. Job losses in the high-paying financial sector have immediate and far-reaching consequences for state revenue and overall economic activity. But that is just one layer of vulnerability. The cost of living in New York is among the highest in the nation. Rents in NYC, for instance, can easily swallow up more than half of an average person's paycheck, making it exceedingly difficult for ordinary families to make ends meet. Guess what? This affordability crisis is driving residents away. As of 2023, over 300,000 people moved out of New York, marking the largest population decline the state has seen in decades. This exodus includes not only middle-class families, but also high earners, further shrinking the state's crucial tax base. With a significant portion of state revenue derived from the income taxes of these top earners, this population loss is devastating for the state budget. How long can this state sustain its lavish spending on social programs and infrastructure projects without breaking under the financial strain? Even the state's famous real estate market is showing signs of strain. Commercial real estate, a massive part of New York's economy, is facing a significant decline in demand, with office vacancies hitting record highs as remote work trends persist. New York is heavily reliant on industries susceptible to economic downturns, burdened by high costs, and facing a significant population outflow. These combined factors create a precarious situation. Stay tuned as we delve deeper into how New York could be on the verge of a major economic collapse and which specific factors are pushing it toward potential disaster. The upcoming analysis will leave you questioning just how much pressure the Empire State can truly take before it cracks. Now, let us travel south to Louisiana. You might assume that Louisiana's economy, buoyed by its rich cultural history, vibrant tourism, and abundant natural resources like oil and gas, is relatively stable. However, you might be shocked at how precarious the Pelican State's situation actually is. Louisiana's economy is deeply dependent on the oil and gas industry. When global energy prices dip, or production slows due to market shifts or regulatory changes, the state takes a massive hit. Did you know that nearly 10% of Louisiana's total gross domestic product comes directly from the oil and gas sector? This heavy reliance means that fluctuations in this single market can have disproportionately large effects on the state's overall financial health. So, when global prices drop, or if a recession forces companies to cut back on production and investment, the ripple effect is felt across the entire state, leading to job losses and reduced state revenues. Guess what? That is just the beginning of Louisiana's challenges. The state also faces crippling infrastructure issues. Decades of underinvestment have left roads, bridges, and crucial coastal protection systems in dire need of repair. Its coastal cities are particularly prone to frequent and devastating natural disasters, such as hurricanes and flooding. A major hurricane or flood event could shut down entire cities, destroy billions in property value, and displace thousands of residents, further weakening the state's already fragile economic position. The costs associated with recovery and rebuilding place an immense strain on state and local budgets. Even more worrying is the fact that Louisiana consistently ranks among the states with the highest poverty rates in the country. The state's unemployment rate often hovers above the national average, and its healthcare and education systems are constantly underfunded, limiting opportunities for residents and hindering long-term economic development. When a recession hits, these vulnerable communities in Louisiana will inevitably be the hardest hit. Many residents already struggle to meet basic needs, lacking the financial cushion to weather an economic storm. While other states may have successfully diversified their economies over the years, Louisiana remains heavily reliant on the volatile energy sector and tourism. But when people stop traveling due to economic hardship, or the oil industry falters, it does not take long before the state begins to unravel. Would you be surprised to know that Louisiana's state budget often struggles with significant deficits, even in relatively good economic times? If a recession cuts deeply into state revenue, the government could be forced to slash vital services like education, healthcare, and infrastructure maintenance even further. This combination of factors, reliance on volatile industries, vulnerability to natural disasters, high poverty, and inadequate public services, could push the state to the brink. The ongoing issues with the state's debt and its dependence on a few key industries suggest that an economic collapse could be on the horizon if a severe economic downturn occurs. Let us consider West Virginia, the mountain state. It has always faced its share of struggles, often linked to its historical reliance on the coal industry. But how much worse could things get if the entire country enters a full-blown recession? West Virginia's economy is overwhelmingly reliant on a dying industry: coal. While coal was once the undisputed backbone of the state's economy, providing jobs and revenue for generations, it is now in steep decline due to environmental concerns, market shifts towards natural gas and renewable energy, and changing regulations. As a result, job opportunities tied to the coal industry are disappearing fast, leaving entire communities devastated with few alternative employment options. Guess what? Despite the decline, nearly 60% of the state's electricity still comes from coal-fired power plants. However, with the inexorable rise of renewable energy sources across the nation, many of these aging plants are being shuttered, leaving even more workers without jobs and further diminishing the state's economic base. To make matters worse, West Virginia consistently suffers from one of the highest poverty rates in the United States. Did you know that nearly 17% of its residents live below the poverty line? This widespread poverty reflects the lack of diverse economic opportunities and the long-term consequences of relying on a single declining industry. But that is not all. Population loss is another serious problem plaguing the state. Thousands of people, particularly younger, working-age individuals, are leaving West Virginia every year in search of better job prospects and economic stability in more prosperous areas. In fact, West Virginia has one of the highest outmigration rates in the U.S. Between 2021 and 2022 alone, the state saw a net migration loss, indicating more people leaving than arriving. As the population dwindles, so does the tax base, further straining state finances and the ability to fund essential services. What happens when a state's population shrinks and its major industries fade away? West Virginia is already struggling with significant budget shortfalls and relies heavily on federal funds to make ends meet. These federal funds, however, could be slashed during a national recession as the federal government faces its own fiscal pressures. If a major economic downturn hits, West Virginia could potentially collapse under the weight of its economic fragility. With limited diversification, a shrinking population, high poverty, and dependence on a declining industry and federal aid, the state finds itself in an incredibly vulnerable position. The future looks bleak unless something drastic changes to revitalize its economy and create new opportunities for its residents. We are just getting started exploring these vulnerable states. Keep watching, because we are about to examine another state facing a precarious economic future. Consider Nevada, a state synonymous with the dazzling neon lights and bustling casinos of the Las Vegas Strip. You might think of it as a thriving desert oasis fueled by entertainment and tourism. However, you might be shocked to discover that this perception masks a fragile economy, making Nevada dangerously close to an economic downfall, especially if a recession strikes. Here is the thing. Nevada's economy is excessively dependent on tourism and hospitality. While these industries can bring in substantial revenue during boom times, they are incredibly sensitive to economic downturns. Guess what? When a recession hits, discretionary spending on travel and entertainment is often the first thing people cut back on. Tourism is usually one of the first industries to take a nosedive. We saw exactly this during the COVID-19 pandemic. Nevada's reliance on tourism became painfully apparent. Did you know that Nevada's unemployment rate skyrocketed to an unbelievable 30% in April 2020? This was the highest unemployment rate recorded in any U.S. state during the pandemic, highlighting the extreme vulnerability created by its economic concentration. While the tourism sector has largely recovered since then, the experience serves as a stark warning. With tourism and hospitality bringing in billions of dollars annually and supporting a vast number of jobs, it is no wonder that when these industries slow down, the state feels it hard and fast. But the reliance on tourism is not Nevada's only challenge. Beyond tourism, the state faces its own set of internal economic pressures, like skyrocketing housing prices, particularly in the Las Vegas and Reno areas. The cost of living has been climbing faster than wages for many residents, making affordability a major issue. An increasing number of homeless residents in its major cities points to underlying economic stress. Furthermore, Nevada has one of the highest rates of personal debt in the U.S. Many people in the state are living paycheck to paycheck, often relying on credit to make ends meet, leaving them with few safety nets to cushion the blow when a recession hits. The state is also deeply dependent on federal funding for various programs and services. In a recession, cuts to these federal funds could further destabilize the local economy and strain state resources. How long can the state continue to rely so heavily on these vulnerable industries before it spirals into economic ruin? What happens if the tourism industry faces another downturn worse than expected? Given its over-reliance on tourism, high personal debt levels, and affordability challenges, Nevada's economic collapse could happen faster than you think if a significant recession takes hold. The state is walking a fine line, and its future hinges precariously on the health of industries highly susceptible to economic shocks. Let's venture north to Alaska, often romanticized as the last frontier, a land of rugged individualism and vast, untouched wilderness. While known for its breathtaking natural beauty, you might be surprised to learn that this remote state is on the edge of a potential financial crisis that could send it into a downward spiral. The problem? Alaska's economy is heavily, almost singularly, reliant on oil. Oil prices are notoriously volatile, subject to the whims of global markets and geopolitical events. You probably already know how unpredictable that market can be. But here's the kicker. Oil accounts for over 80% of Alaska's state revenue. That means when the price of oil falls, as it has drastically at times in recent years, so does Alaska's ability to fund vital services like schools, roads, and public safety. Guess what? In recent years, we have seen oil prices plummet and then struggle to stabilize, putting immense pressure on the state's budget. In fact, during the 2014 oil crash, Alaska's budget deficit ballooned, forcing deep cuts to state programs, and it still has not fully recovered. With less revenue coming in, state services, including crucial areas like public safety, education, and infrastructure maintenance, have faced massive cuts, impacting the quality of life for residents. You might be thinking, Alaska has a small population, so how bad could it really be? Well, here is the thing. The cost of living in Alaska is exceptionally high, especially in remote areas where transportation costs for goods are significant. This makes it difficult for residents, even those with decent jobs, to make ends meet. The state's dependence on a single industry, oil, makes it incredibly vulnerable to global market shifts. Unlike other states that have diversified their economies, Alaska has struggled to develop other significant industries. But it gets worse. Alaska is also dealing with an aging infrastructure, roads, ports, pipelines, that requires billions of dollars in repairs and upgrades, money the state increasingly does not have due to fluctuating oil revenues. Alaska is also experiencing population decline. Between 2019 and 2021, the state saw a net population loss of over 10,000 people as residents, particularly younger ones, leave in search of better economic opportunities elsewhere. When oil production slows down or prices drop, jobs disappear, and the state could see an even larger exodus, further shrinking the tax base and exacerbating budget problems. You would be shocked at how quickly things could unravel in Alaska if oil prices fall further or if a major recession hits. With its extreme reliance on oil, high cost of living, infrastructure needs, and population challenges, Alaska's economic future is precarious. You might not immediately think of New Mexico, a state known for its rich cultural heritage, stunning landscapes, and unique history, as being on the brink of a financial crisis. But you would be mistaken. This southwestern state is facing serious economic headwinds that could lead to collapse if a recession takes hold. Here is the thing. New Mexico's economy, much like Alaska's and Louisiana's, is heavily based on industries like oil, natural gas, and government spending. Guess what? When the oil market suffers, or federal spending decreases, so does New Mexico's economy. With oil prices constantly fluctuating, the state has seen serious budget shortfalls in recent years, forcing difficult decisions about funding essential services. In fact, New Mexico's economy is considered one of the most vulnerable in the country, precisely because of its dependence on these volatile sectors. You would be surprised to learn that New Mexico's unemployment rate has consistently been higher than the national average, hovering around 5% in recent years. This reflects a lack of diverse job opportunities outside of the energy sector and government employment. But that is just one of the state's significant problems. New Mexico also ranks near the bottom nationally in key areas like education and healthcare outcomes. These systemic issues hinder workforce development and put additional strain on the state's economy and social fabric. Did you know that New Mexico has the highest poverty rate in the U.S., with nearly 20% of its population living below the poverty line? That means a large portion of the population is already struggling to make ends meet, making them extremely vulnerable to any economic downturn. A recession could push these vulnerable communities even further into economic despair. And here is another shocking fact. New Mexico has also been dealing with a serious outmigration problem. People are leaving the state in search of better opportunities. Between 2010 and 2020, New Mexico lost over 30,000 residents due to net migration. With fewer people paying taxes, the state's revenue continues to drop, leaving a growing gap between its budget needs and the services it can provide. So, what happens when a state's economy is in free fall, its key industries are shrinking or volatile, and its population is fleeing? The answer is not pretty. New Mexico's economic future is looking grim, and a significant recession could send it into a tailspin, potentially leading to widespread hardship and service cuts. Let us examine Mississippi, a state often overlooked in national economic discussions, but one facing its own unique set of challenges that could send it to the brink if a recession hits. You might not expect it, but Mississippi is struggling with deep-rooted issues like persistent poverty, low wages, and a shrinking workforce, making it incredibly vulnerable to economic shocks. Can you believe that Mississippi consistently ranks as having one of the lowest median household incomes in the entire United States? This means many Mississippians are already living paycheck to paycheck, with little or no savings to fall back on during hard times. Guess what? The state also ranks at the bottom for critical indicators like education and healthcare outcomes, creating significant barriers for residents trying to climb out of poverty and limiting the state's overall economic potential. Making it even harder for residents to escape poverty is the state's reliance on low-wage industries. And here's the kicker. Mississippi has been losing population for years, with thousands leaving annually in search of better economic opportunities elsewhere. In fact, the state experienced a net migration loss in recent years, indicating a concerning trend. As a result of this outmigration, the state's workforce is shrinking, putting more strain on an already struggling economy and further diminishing the tax base needed to fund essential services. What would happen if these deep-seated issues are magnified by a larger economic downturn? With a weak job market, limited opportunities outside of low-wage sectors, and underfunded public services, Mississippi could find itself in serious trouble if a recession deepens. How long can a state with such significant structural challenges keep its head above water? Mississippi might be in for some exceptionally tough times ahead if the national economy takes a significant hit. Finally, let us journey to the tropical paradise of Hawaii. Renowned for its stunning beaches, volcanic landscapes, and unique Polynesian culture, it is a dream destination for many. However, you might be utterly surprised to learn that even this idyllic island state is struggling economically and is far more fragile than its postcard image suggests. Hawaii's economy is overwhelmingly, almost perilously, dependent on tourism. Guess what? When global recessions hit, or events like the 2020 pandemic occur, the state feels it first and hardest. Tourism numbers plummeted during the pandemic, devastating the local economy. And while it is recovering, tourism remains a volatile source of income, highly susceptible to external shocks. Did you know that Hawaii has one of the highest costs of living in the entire United States? Sky-high housing prices, driven partly by tourism and outside investment, combined with the high cost of importing goods, make it incredibly difficult for residents, especially native Hawaiians and long-term locals, to afford to live in their own homeland. But here is another shocking fact. Hawaii also suffers from limited job opportunities outside of the tourism sector. This lack of economic diversification means that when tourism falters, there are few alternative industries to pick up the slack. As a result, many residents, particularly younger generations, have been forced to leave the state to seek affordable living and better career prospects elsewhere. In fact, Hawaii has experienced net outmigration in recent years, a trend that further strains the state's economy and social fabric. What happens when a state is so dependent on an unstable industry like tourism, and its residents can barely afford to live there? The economic impact of any significant downturn could be devastating for Hawaii. A drop in tourism, coupled with the already high cost of living, could lead to widespread job losses, business closures, and increased hardship for families. The state's heavy reliance on tourism makes it exceptionally vulnerable, and its economic future remains uncertain in the face of potential global economic instability. There you have it, a look at 10 states that could potentially be on the brink of collapse if the U.S. economy enters a significant recession. From the sunny shores of California and Hawaii to the industrial heartlands of Illinois and West Virginia, and the resource-dependent states like Louisiana, Alaska, and New Mexico, each faces a unique combination of vulnerabilities. The challenges they confront are real and deeply ingrained: crippling debt, over-reliance on volatile or declining industries, soaring costs of living, persistent poverty, population loss, inadequate infrastructure, and underfunded essential services. The economic shifts, whether gradual declines in traditional industries or sudden shocks like a pandemic or natural disaster, reveal the underlying fragility of these state economies. A major national recession could exacerbate these existing problems, potentially pushing these states over the edge. The consequences could be severe, impacting millions of lives through job losses, cuts to vital public services, and increased economic hardship. But guess what? Understanding these vulnerabilities is the first step toward addressing them. While the future remains uncertain, recognizing the risks allows for potential policy changes and economic diversification efforts that could help these states build more resilient futures. You do not want to miss more videos like this, exploring critical economic and political issues. If you found this content eye-opening and informative, please make sure to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel. Your support is invaluable and helps us continue to bring more in-depth, thought-provoking videos your way. Also, do not forget to click the notification bell so you stay updated on all our future content. Thanks for watching.